Alright, so let me first show you how this works. I'm in this markdown file inside Neovim, and notice that I have all of these different hints. I'm gonna hover over this line and notice what I get here. This sentence is 51 words long, and it does not start with the capital letter. I'm gonna start fixing stuff, and I'm gonna show you how to modify all the rules in a little while. So I'm just gonna change this, just gonna make it capital. Now I get this sentence is 51 words long. Let's break it a little bit so that I don't see that anymore. I added a period there. Now I don't get that hint. Notice the next one. When referring to Google products and services, make sure and notice that I cannot read the entire message. But if I hover over this, notice that I can see it there. Make sure to treat them as proper nouns. And let me just change this. I'm going to change it to search in Google. Let's see what happens. That fixed it. I'm gonna continue fixing the rest of the items that I have in this file so you can have a better idea. Let me jump to the next one. Notice here, the possessive version of this word is more common in this context. So how would I fix this? There's a way. Let me show you something real quick. Just gonna type here this, right? Notice that it fixed that one, but now I have this other hint. Try to avoid offensive language. This is something you can disable, of course, but I wouldn't fix this issue this way. Let me just undo these changes. No, let's go back here. Undo this one. And what I would do here is maybe change this other day, probably. Or another option would probably be, let me just undo this again so I get the error. Maybe try something like, I'll see you in the next video, maybe something like that. Notice that I don't get that anymore. Let's switch to the next one. Notice here, this sentence does not start with a capital letter. Just gonna switch this to uppercase. Let's move to the next one. Incorrect indefinite article. Image from a URL, not an URL. So that was my mistake there. Let's switch to the next one. Does not start with a capital letter. Just gonna change this and move to the next one. As well, notice that I'm going to switch it to capital letter and it still works. A callout still shows up correctly. So there's no issue with that. And the same thing with this other one here. Just capitalize it and that fixed it. Notice that I don't have any hints in the file anymore. How can I tell? Because of the icon that shows at the very bottom. Let me just undo this. You're gonna notice the icon that shows here, right? So if I don't have any more, that goes away. So what is this? Is this a plugin or what is it? We're gonna go over the tool in a little while, but first, let me just show you how to disable the rules. Here on the right-hand side, I notice that I have some tasks. I'm just gonna mark this as done. The rules, you can disable them at will. I'm just gonna open this. It takes me to this rules section. And let me search for something here. I'm just going to search for offensive. And notice that I have this rule, avoid curses. So I can disable it. Let's do that just for testing. I'm just gonna grab this. I'm just gonna copy it. I'm gonna bring it back here. Let me go to my .files real quick. And nvim-lspconfig. This is the file that I'm going to modify. I'm going to add the rule here and I'm going to set it to false, right? And now let's go back to my other Emacs session. I'm going to restart here. I think I need to restart. I'm not sure, but I'm just doing it just in case. And now let me search for live stream. Let's see if it works. I'll see you in the next video. And I'm just going to switch here. You're in the next video. Let's see if it shows up. Notice that I don't get that warning anymore, right? But let's just try disabling the rule again. Let's see if it works. Just deleted that. Let's go back here. Yep, and I do need to restart. Maybe just refresh. No, I need to restart. Let me restart. And notice that I have one hint right now. Let me switch to it real quick. And there it is. Just gonna delete this. And that's the way that you play around with rules in case that you need to disable some others. So I'm just gonna mark this as done here. Notice that I'm switching to the next suggestions with square brackets, open or close square brackets, and D. That is because I use the lazy vim distribution. That is a key map that comes by default. I'm not sure about the rest of the distros or your own config, but just keep it in mind if you're using lazy vim, just like me. Well, not the lazy vim plugin manager, but the lazy vim distro itself. Let's go back to the browser and let's go to the about page here real quick, just so you can have a better idea on what the tool is. It's called Harper. It's a grammar checker designed to run anywhere there is text. Notice that you can run it in Neovim, Obsidian, vscode, and here's how it works. That's what we're doing in the video, right? So I just wanted to give you a quick look on what this tool is, but I'm going to show you everything I know about it, how to set it up and all that stuff. All right, so let's look at this here on the right side. IgnoreLinkTitle. Notice what I added here. Ignore stuff in markdown links and also in wiki links. Where do I enable this? Let me go back to my dotfiles, and you're going to notice that the rule is added here under markdown. IgnoreLinkTitle equals true, and I also left some comments there. It ignores this part in markdown links, but also very important, ignores my marksman links, which are basically wiki links, which are the links that you use to link two nodes together. And that's really useful, and let me show you why. Let me switch to the other file. I have some links here somewhere. Oh, in this section, testing marksman links. So let me just open this. Notice that I don't have any hints here, even though I'm not spelling things correctly, right? And that's what I want. I don't want it to be checking for inconsistencies or errors in here. What happens if I disable this? Let's give it a try. Let me go back here. I'm just going to comment this, and I'm just going to restart this Neovim session. Notice that I have some diagnostics now. This sentence does not start with a capital letter. I don't need it to start with a capital letter because this is a link to another node. If I type here GD, it's gonna take me to that other file. Let me go back to the previous file. Same thing here. This is just a link to another node. If I type here GD, it's gonna take me to that bind9 file, and I don't need the hints there, right? The same thing if we scroll down a little bit here. I don't need it to check spelling for this link. It is typed correctly. If I type GD, it's gonna take me to that XOA file. All right, so now let me just re-enable this. I'm just going to uncomment this. I'm going to go back to the file. I'm going to restart Neovim here, and we should see those disappear, which is exactly what I want. So I already covered this here. Let me mark this as done. What else do we have here? IsolateEnglish. I've noticed that this works pretty well in small files. I have really big files in which it doesn't work that well, but we could say that it gets the job done. Basically, what you want to do is just avoid the noise in files that have words that are not in English. Like in this file, I have this other heading here, right? Notice that I have Spanish here. The document, I have it set to English right now. You can see that here at the bottom. That's why spell, this is just the Neovim spell. It's just detecting these words, but this is not Harper. I'm just going to switch to both English and Spanish. You're going to notice that that is going to go away. I have a key map for that. Leader MSLB. Notice that that is gone, and notice that the language is set to both English and Spanish. So the Neovim spell is not picking up anything, but also Harper is not picking up anything because of this isolate English option. Let's see what happens if we disable it. So that is shown here. I'm just gonna comment this, switch back here, gonna restart Neovim. Let's give it a try. Notice that Harper now kicks in and detects these because they're in a different language, and I don't want it to do that. So just leave this enabled, restart here, and now we're good to go. So I just wanted to show that. Let me mark this as done. Well, let's go back here to the language server docs, and this is where you can read a little bit more. In documents that are a mixture of English and another language, only lint English text. But notice what it says down there. This is incredibly new and unstable. Do not expect it to work perfectly. So that's why, if you're using it in a really big file, it may not work to 100%. So let me just mark this task as done here. Yeah, this one is done. Diagnostics in a hover window, why and how. So if you notice, when I'm back here in Neovim, well, let's go back here to the right. I have a misspelling here, right? I have a hint here. Notice that since this window is really small, I cannot see it on the right hand side. And that happens a lot of the times. You cannot see the hint on the right. So what do? I just enable this hover window. And notice that I can see the error there and fix it. I'm just gonna add the comma here that is missing, and that is done. How do I do this? I do it as an auto command. Let me switch here, and I'm just going to open my autocommands.lua file. In case that you don't know what file I'm working on, you're able to see that here at the top of the screen. Here is the path for this file, and here is the name of the file. Where do you find all these files? You can find them in my .files. Let me go there real quick. And let me just go to the main repo. Well, here's the file actually. If you scroll down, you're gonna find it there. And if you go to my main repo, here, ERY, remember to give the repo a star if you find useful information on the top right corner. So that's just in case you don't know where all these files live. Everything is in my .files, so you'll be able to find it there. Let's go back to Neovim and let's look for the hover section. Oh, here it is. Show LSP diagnostics in a hover window pop-up. So notice that this is where I got this question. Just searched in Google, found the answer here. Well, this is where the question was asked in Reddit, and here's the answer. Here's what I implemented, which is the auto command that you see here. I just specified the border, set it to rounded, and that was basically it. So just make sure that you add this as an auto command. Also, one other thing that I forgot to add here is if you want to increase the time that it takes to show the hover menu. Let me switch to my options.lua file, which is the one shown here. Let me search here for hover, and here it is. Notice the comment that I left here. Time it takes to show the pop-up after you hover over the line with an error. So you can increase this. It's set to 200 milliseconds at the moment. You can increase it or decrease it to your liking. I'm just gonna copy this and I'm just gonna leave it as a comment there because I will forget. You want to increase the modify in your options.lua file. All right. So that's why I use the hover. I'm just gonna mark this as done. Notice here that we already read that it has integrations for Emacs, Helix, Z, vscode, Obsidian, and WordPress. You can find more information about that in the website. This is also very important. It is not a plugin, it's a language server. So that's why everything is modified in this file, the nvim-lspconfig.lua file. So just keep that in mind. I'm just gonna mark this. One other important feature is that this runs locally on your device. So two things with this. It is private because it doesn't need to reach out to any third-party services. And as you noticed, that makes it really fast. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Notice that it has built-in support for parsing the comments of most programming languages. Let me show you how that works. We are in the nvim-lspconfig file here. Remember that this is in my .files. Notice that the file types that I'm detecting at the moment is just markdown. I'm gonna comment this and I'm going to restart Neovim and I should see hints in this file, which is a Lua file. Notice that I do, right? The first one here, try to avoid offensive language. Do you mean spell inlay this way? This is quite nice because it would help me detect issues in my config. The problem is that I have a lot of code that is commented and I would be getting a lot of messages or hints like this. And I don't want that. I don't know if there's a way to detect code and just show hints in comments that are really comments, not code. I'm not sure. I haven't checked. But if you know the answer, let me know down in the comments. Let me switch to another file. Let me open my keymaps.lua file. You're going to notice that I have a lot of errors there. Well, a lot of hints there. And it's just too much. It's just too much noise for my specific taste. So I just don't keep this enabled. I'm just going to undo the changes. I'm just going to restart Neovim. But there's people that is cleaner with comments that will find this really helpful. All right. So what else do we have here? This is already done. Just going to mark it as done. Since I used the lazy plugin manager, I didn't need to configure this. Let me open this site here. Notice the instructions required setup. You need to add this to your init.lua file. In my case, I just reached out to the Harper creator and I asked if I really needed to do this. That person explained that you don't need to do it because Lazy takes care of it in the background. So if you're using the Lazy file manager, you probably won't need to do this. The only thing that I did was to add this configuration here to my lspconfig file. What did I add under servers? Noted that I added Harper ls, and here is the configuration. That's it. And notice here on the right side that nvim-lspconfig holds this in the background, so that's why it's not needed. I'm just gonna mark this as done. Notice the next item that I have here shown. In the page above, see optional config. So nvim-lspconfig file. Okay, notice that here in the browser, you can find the optional configuration. This is basically the entire configuration. Not all of the rules are there. Under linters, notice here that we only have a few of them, but that's not even close to being all of the rules. Let me go to the rules file real quick so you can take a look. Notice how many rules there are. There is hundreds of them. So this just gives you an idea on how you need to configure stuff. Linters, where they go, code actions, markdown, and isolateEnglish here. So we already went through this here on the right. Let me mark this as done. I already showed you my lspconfig file. Remember that this file is going to be in my dotfiles. You can grab it from there. Also, if you go through the documentation, you will be able to see that you can install this tool through Homebrew. I didn't install it through Homebrew. I installed it through Mason and Neovim. But why would you install it through Homebrew? I just asked the developer and was kind enough to let me know that it's just for people that don't use Mason or don't have a built-in LSP package manager. So just keep that in mind. You can install it through Brew as well. Let me just mark this as done. Oh, and let me show you how I installed it real quick. Where is my Mason file? Mason-nvim. I just added it here, and that was basically it. So this is how you install it through Mason here, and this is how you configure it. That's it. Pretty simple. Some of the caveats is that English is the only supported language, as you're able to see there. This is not too much of a problem for me because I do speak Spanish. Everything that I write is in English, so it's not a big deal. Unless it's like a university course or something, it would be nice to have an option in Spanish. So if you have other recommendations that are simple to set up, that would work with multiple languages, just let me know. I left a link here, Grammarly for Neovim. This is how I found out about Harper, because this discussion was started 4 days ago. And the Harper developer quickly jumped in and just offered the solution, Harper. Proper spell checking Neovim is something that I wanted to do for a while now, but I never took the time to implement. And Harper, it's pretty simple to do so. So I would highly recommend you to go ahead and check it out. But remember, if you have any other recommendations, just please let me know down in the comments. What else do we have here? Do you know a way to disable Harper for specific paths in the nvim-lspconfig? Okay, so this is not a Harper config. This is an nvim-lspconfig. I don't know how to disable Harper for specific paths. So if someone out there knows how to disable this language server, Harper, for specific paths, I would highly appreciate it. Why am I asking this? Because there are some documents that I have in Spanish, and I would just like Harper not to work there at all. Remember that we have this option, isolateEnglish, which kind of works, but it's not perfect. So if I can disable it for specific paths, would be great. So if someone out there knows about nvim-lspconfig, knows how to do this, just let me know down in the comments. So what else? Push changes to GitHub. All right. I always forget this. Let's go here. I already have all of the changes that I wanted to make. Just let me add a comment here. Okay, so just added my comments here. All of the other commits are there, just waiting to be pushed. Everything is here. I'm just gonna push this to GitHub real quick. And now you have all of the changes there. Thank the supporters. This is something that I forget to do all the time as well on each one of my videos. Let me go back to this other file, supporters. I have them listed here. YouTube memberships, they're listed here. Ko-fi, this YouTube Ko-fi membership, super chats, Ko-fi one-time donations listed here. So again, just want to say thanks to each one of you. Really appreciate all the support. And you know what? I don't want this to be showing me this all the time. What if we add this like this? And we're gonna add this here. No, you know what? I'm just gonna add this to my spell file. You're gonna notice that Harper is going to detect that. Leader MSG that added it. Leader MSG added it. IRO, I'm just going to add it like this. I don't have any other Harper messages there. Just Roman, did you mean to spell V this way? Yeah, let's leave it like that. So again, thanks to each one of you. There's something else that I want to show you before I let you go. Notice that I have 67 changes that have been applied on this file. You're gonna notice in SketchyBar a little icon here that is just gonna let me know that these changes have been automatically pushed to GitHub. Let's see if we can catch it. And in the meantime, if you haven't joined our Discord server, let me switch to it real quick. I'm going to leave a link to the server in the video description. There's discussions going on there almost every day, but just join, ask your questions. There's a lot of really nice people there that are supporting all the time, giving wonderful tips. So I just wanted to say thanks as well to all the different Discord members that are sharing their tips and tricks every day. Let's see if this script is gonna show up. I configured it to trigger every 3 minutes, so it should trigger soon. Well, 3 minutes after the last change. All right, notice that something happened. There it is. Notice at the very top of the screen right now here. So that means that the changes that I applied on this file were automatically pushed to GitHub. Notice that they also disappeared here from Lualine in my Skitty Notes app. So I did cover everything that I needed to cover. If you have questions, remember, leave them down in the comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. Hope this was useful, and I'll see you in the next video.